Hey guys, tonight we are stepping into the sun-baked stillness of ancient Egypt, right as the final rays slip behind a giant triangle of stone. You are not in a museum. You are there, barefoot in hot sand, staring up at a half-built pyramid as a foreman in a leopard print kilt yells something about limestone quotas. The air smells like crushed papyrus and camel sweat. The only thing louder than the distant pounding of chisels is the buzzing in your ears, because apparently you have heat stroke, or are you about to be healed by the most mysterious sleep protocol the ancient world ever devised? Welcome to Pyramid Sleep Therapy, where stone walls whisper secrets, priests prescribe dreams, and you, the humble wanderer, might be next in line for a ceremonial snooze. But warning, this is not some luxury spa package. No one hands you a towel. And those beetles? They are not decorative. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I would love to know where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. Drop that in the comments. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge forward, following a row of torch-lit niches that snake around the base of the Great Pyramid. At first glance, it all seems monumental, but, well, inert, like the architectural equivalent of elevator music. But that is the trick. Egypt's pyramid complexes were not just tombs. They were environments designed to manipulate your senses, your beliefs, and maybe even your biology. See, historians still argue whether the original intention behind these massive structures was funerary, symbolic, or therapeutic. One camp points to the careful alignment of the pyramids with constellations and the Nile's path. Another group insists it was a public statement of power, like building a really inconveniently large business card. And then there is the dreamy middle path. Maybe they were designed to help initiate transcendental states. Sleep, trance, maybe both. You step into the shadow of a half-finished colossus. Its sides are slick with desert dust and still humming with hammer work. Someone passes you a water skin. It tastes like goats. And yet, there is something deeply calming about the monotony of it all. The workers chant. The sun retreats. Your heartbeat slows. That is the first secret of pyramid sleep therapy. Boredom. Not the modern scroll through social media until your soul dries up kind of boredom. No, this is engineered boredom, chisels ticking in rhythm. Walls made to echo in predictable, low frequencies. No sudden sounds. No jarring colors. Just an endless wash of beige, ochre, and the occasional lapis inlay. And you are not even inside yet. You push deeper into a dim corridor carved straight into limestone. Your fingertips trail the wall's cool surface. It is smoother than you expect, like the interior of a seashell. The silence thickens, only interrupted by the shuffle of your sandals and your own breath. This moment is what the ancients sought: sensory simplification. Your brain, deprived of external noise, starts making its own. According to one mainstream theory, the ancient Egyptians believed the best sleep happened when the body was encased in stability, a kind of womb made of stone. And while that sounds charmingly poetic, it is also just wildly uncomfortable. You lie down in a recess, no padding, no cushion, and close your eyes. Because what else are you going to do? The dreams start quickly, or so they claimed. Some say the pharaohs had special chambers inside pyramids, not for burial, but for visionary sleep, part of the sacred rites of kingship. Others argue these stories are much later inventions, the result of mixing fact with mysticism over millennia. Still, the image persists. A ruler entering a chamber alone to dream of divine instruction. And you are not royalty. But tonight, you are playing the part. A soft hum starts. Possibly the wind, possibly your own imagination turning up the volume on nothingness. You breathe in the dry, mineral air. It smells like ancient books and ancient sweat. The heat outside has faded, replaced by a creeping coolness that sinks into your bones. And then, just when you are certain you will drift off, a beetle crawls across your hand. Scarab, symbol of rebirth, or in this case, nature's little reminder that ancient Egypt did not believe in sterile sleeping quarters. You flick it off. Time slows here. The stones seem to breathe, or maybe it is just your own breath echoing back at you. Either way, something shifts in your perception, like falling sideways into a long-forgotten story. Here is a fringe tidbit for you. There is a theory, very much outside the mainstream, that the pyramid shape itself generates a kind of energy field conducive to healing and altered consciousness. This idea pops up in modern pseudoscience more than in serious Egyptology, but it refuses to go away. Proponents claim that milk placed under a small pyramid structure rots slower, that razors stay sharper, and most importantly, that humans sleep better. Are these claims verified? No. But are they persistently fascinating? Absolutely. Back to your current situation. Lying flat on a stone slab, inside a cavernous room, surrounded by 4 million-ton mystery triangles. The Great Pyramid of Giza, by the way, contains 3 main chambers: the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the Subterranean Chamber, also known as the one that feels like the earth is about to swallow you. Scholars are still debating whether these were ceremonial rooms, structural features, or something more esoteric. And then there is the Grand Gallery, a long, sloped corridor with oddly precise construction and zero clear explanation. It is almost as if it is built for sound, or dreaming, or both. You hear something now. A tone? A whisper? No, just wind again. Or not. This is pyramid sleep therapy at its core. Ambiguity wrapped in stone. You are never sure if you are experiencing something sacred or just really bored and a little dehydrated. And yet that uncertainty is part of the trance. You surrender to it. You blink slowly. The torch flickers. You feel smaller than the architecture around you. You feel tired. And that is exactly what they wanted. You are still lying there. The stone slab has not gotten any softer, but your breathing has slowed. Your muscles have loosened, and your thoughts have begun that strange, sleepy spiral where everything feels meaningful and slightly ridiculous. Somewhere above your head, far above, the pyramid's capstone would have gleamed in the moonlight if it were not missing. Some believe it was solid gold. Others say it never existed. Either way, your imagination supplies a shimmering point of light as your eyes flutter shut. Now the real question arises. Why did they build this whole thing in such a deliberate way if it was only supposed to house a mummy? Because here's what starts to emerge once you look past the tourist brochures and revisit ancient architectural plans. Pyramids were sleep traps, not for trickery, but for precision. Sleep by design, not accident. Most people think of pyramids as tombs, and technically, they are right. Kind of. The Great Pyramid was supposedly built for Pharaoh Khufu, yet no mummy has ever been found inside. No treasure. Not even a lazy cat. And while mainstream scholars still argue over whether the missing body was stolen, never placed, or simply rotted beyond recognition, another question hums just beneath the limestone. What if it was never meant to be a grave? Because you begin to notice something peculiar about the design. Everything is aligned. The base is a nearly perfect square. The sides face true north, south, east, and west. The king's chamber is positioned with eerie mathematical precision at the pyramid's center. This is not just stacking rocks. It is spatial engineering with a purpose. And what purpose needs that much accuracy? Apparently, sleep. The room you are in, if it mirrors the king's chamber, is made entirely of granite. Hard, resonant. Granite has piezoelectric properties, meaning it can produce an electric charge under stress. So now you are lying inside what is basically a gigantic battery box. You shift slightly, still uncomfortable, but your skin tingles. Some modern fringe theorists argue the chamber was built to tune the human body, just like tuning a stringed instrument. The body, after all, is electrical. Your brain waves, heart rhythms, even your dreams, are all forms of subtle frequency. Could it be that the ancients discovered this, not through lab coats and clipboards, but through intuition and a deeply annoying trial and error process that took several lifetimes? You start to see the idea. This chamber was designed for more than death. It was designed for transformation. Maybe sleep was just the medium. There are no windows here, no light, no air conditioning, and yet the space stays a steady temperature year-round. That is not an accident either. Pyramids are masters of insulation, a sort of ancient climate control achieved through stone mass and clever positioning, which, let us be honest, is kind of infuriating when you consider your own bedroom turns into an oven if the sun glances at it for 5 minutes. You roll to your side. The air has a faint vibration to it now, whether from your imagination or the wind outside rushing through narrow shafts. It does not matter. You feel it in your bones. And this is where the ancient dreamers hoped the magic would begin. Not magic as in wands and fireworks. Magic as in intention, architecture, and altered awareness. You think about the priests, the ones in Heliopolis, who built entire complexes dedicated to solar worship and spiritual rest. Some records describe specialized rooms called serdabs, sealed-off spaces where statues or sacred relics were placed. But what if they were also used for something more human? A priest needing guidance might be led to one of these spaces to fast, sleep, and wait for divine communication. Just a priest, a slab, Silence. Sound familiar? Historians still argue whether these rituals were symbolic acts or literal attempts to receive messages during sleep. The term incubation was used later by the Greeks, who borrowed heavily from Egypt. They believed that you could enter a sacred space, fall asleep, and emerge with knowledge of healing, the future, or your life's direction. Kind of like a really intense therapy session, except with cobras and hieroglyphs instead of tissues and soft jazz. As you lie there, trying not to sneeze from the dust, you begin to notice just how little stimulation exists. No screens, no clocks, no alerts, just stone and breath. This was probably intentional, because once you strip away every distraction, your brain has only one place to go, inward. And it is in that silence, in that soft thudding of your own heartbeat echoing off millennia-old granite, that the transformation supposedly happens. A mainstream fact to hang on to as you drift, pyramid design follows the sacred ratio. The ratio of the pyramid's base to its height approximates the golden ratio, which has been associated with beauty, harmony, and natural order since, well, forever. Whether that was deliberate or a happy accident is a hotly debated topic, but either way, it adds to the mystique. You are literally lying inside math, elegant, sleep-inducing math. Another fringe tidbit floats to the surface. Some people claim that spending even a few hours inside a pyramid can reset your circadian rhythm. These experiments usually involve cardboard pyramids and a lot of wishful thinking. But still, it is oddly comforting to imagine geometry helping you sleep better than melatonin ever could. You sigh. Your breath comes slower now. Even your thoughts seem less chaotic. There is something about the heaviness of the stone around you, the stability of it, that starts to feel protective, like being wrapped in geological certainty. That is when the jokes in your mind quiet down too. The sarcastic narrator that usually comments on everything, even they are falling asleep, which is dangerous, because those ancient beetles are still roaming somewhere nearby. But right now, you do not care. You are halfway between waking and dreaming, your mind tangled in pyramid math, priestly snoozes, and the distant hum of desert wind. You are not just resting. You are part of something timeless. You wake, or rather, you emerge. It is the kind of waking that feels like resurfacing from warm, bottomless water. No alarms, no jolt, just a slow return to yourself. The stone beneath you is just as unforgiving, and yet your body feels like it has been unknotted, looser, slower. Your back might disagree, but your mind seems realigned, balanced, which is strange because you are pretty sure you drooled on a rock somewhere above you. Sunlight slices through a narrow shaft, catching particles of dust that dance in golden spirals. You sit up, blinking, and everything feels both incredibly old and suddenly brand new, which is probably exactly the kind of poetic nonsense the priests were going for. Here is the next layer in this stack of mysterious sleep therapy. Ritual. Because nothing in ancient Egypt happened without ritual. You did not sneeze without a blessing. You did not plant a seed without invoking at least 3 deities and probably lighting something on fire. So when it came to sleep, the moment your consciousness left your body and drifted into the unknown. You bet they had a protocol for that. You are led gently, slowly, by a figure in linen robes down a corridor. This one is lower, closer. The walls seem to press in, but not menacingly. It feels like walking into a hug from a very large, very dusty stone snake, which, somehow, is comforting. This is the preparation chamber. Before a sleeper could enter the sacred space, they had to undergo mental and physical purification. No surprise parties here, just oils, chants, and the occasional application of a sweet-smelling paste made from things like frankincense, honey, and, if the scrolls are to be believed, possibly crocodile-dung. Yes, remember that sunscreen from earlier? Multi-purpose. The goal was to purify the body so that sleep would be untainted. No bad dreams, no demonic interference, no impolite snoring. You were to enter the dream world as a clean guest. Mainstream scholars agree that ritual purification was essential before any contact with the divine, whether for temple entry, tomb building, or kingly ceremonies. Bathing and anointing were non-negotiable, and not just for physical cleanliness. It was about vibration, about intention. If you smelled bad, sure, that was offensive. But if you thought bad, that was dangerous. So here you are, being dabbed with oils and murmured over in a language that rises and falls like a lullaby. You do not understand it, but your brain stops trying. It's simply, let's go. And that is the point. The more your body was prepared to sleep in these sacred spaces, the more likely it was that your dreams would be messages, not just static. Dreams, for the ancient Egyptians, were not background noise. They were missives from the gods, warnings from ancestors, previews of the future. Your subconscious was not a messy attic. It was a post office. One curious little find from Deir el-Medina, home to the pyramid workers and artisans, includes a collection of dream books in which dreams are listed and interpreted. See a snake? You will find protection. See a flood? Expect wealth. Dream of losing teeth? Bad. Dream of a hippo in a bathtub? Surprisingly rare. Historians still argue whether these interpretations were widely practiced or only recorded by temple scribes for elite dreamers. But the consistency across record shows that dreams were taken seriously. Now, this preparation chamber you are in, some scholars believe that similar side rooms in pyramids or temples were used as literal sleep prep zones. Spaces to strip away the day, anoint the dreamer, and transition the mind. Others claim they were purely practical, storage, guards' quarters, or architectural leftovers. Either way, the air smells like cinnamon and mystery, and you are starting to understand the point. You lie down again, this time not in stone, but on woven mats. A rare treat. Your limbs melt into the texture. Your eyelids flutter. And here, the real ceremony begins. Your guide starts a chant. Slow, rhythmic. It repeats every few breaths. No rush. This is not a Broadway production. It is not even a bedtime story. It is a cadence designed to drop your brainwaves from daylight problem solver to open receiver of divine text messages. You are told to focus on a symbol, maybe the eye of Horus, maybe a scarab rolling the sun across the sky. Whatever it is, you let it fill your inner vision. It hovers there like a screensaver made of stars. Here is a fringe idea. Some theorists believe the rituals involved specific tones or frequencies, sung or drummed, to resonate with the internal rhythms of the body. Kind of like syncing your Wi-Fi, but with more incense. The king's chamber, in particular, is known for its acoustic oddities. Clap your hands in there, and the sound does not just bounce, it blooms. Certain frequencies linger, as if the stone itself is listening or remembering. You drift, not quite asleep, not quite awake. It feels like being suspended between two sand dunes, rocking gently on a hammock made of time. And that is when things start to get interesting. You dream, but it is not the usual chaos. You are standing in the same pyramid, but older, cleaner. There are torches, yes, but also light that does not seem to come from fire. Walls shimmer with gold leaf and blue paint. Priests move past you in silence. One turns, looks directly into your eyes, and says something you immediately forget upon waking. But the feeling lingers. That was the goal. The Egyptians believed dreams were transient visitations. You might not always remember them, but you would feel their imprint. The key was to interpret that feeling, to live accordingly. You wake up shivering and oddly calm. The room is silent again. Your guide is gone, or maybe never there. Who knows? You sit up. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember something about your name being written on a wall. Or was it a star chart? Or a fish? Either way, it seemed important. You smile, because now you are beginning to understand why pyramid sleep therapy is not something you do for fun. It is something you endure and emerge from a little quieter, a little stranger, and just possibly a little wiser. The silence of the pyramid settles around you again, but this time it feels earned. You are no longer a confused outsider trying to nap in a historic fridge. You are something else now. Initiated, maybe, or just slightly dazed. Same difference. As your breathing evens out and your eyes adjust to the ambient gloom, you are led deeper. Not physically. Your legs are jelly, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Ugh, yes. We are going there. You begin to notice the space not just as a place, but as a feeling. You do not walk anymore. You float through corridors of memory and metaphor. This is the pyramid's deeper function, not just as a burial site or a dream incubator, but as a guided journey through the layers of the self. Picture this. The pyramid is a labyrinth, and your consciousness is Theseus, minus the sword, plus sleep paralysis. Each chamber you enter is symbolic, corresponding not just to parts of the body, but to experiences, challenges, transformations. This is not just architecture, it is a metaphor you are expected to live through. Take the Grand Gallery, the long, sloping hall that connects the so-called Queen's Chamber to the King's Chamber. Most visitors just marvel at its scale and symmetry, but you are starting to see it as a symbolic birth canal, a long, tight ascent from confusion to clarity. Historians still argue whether the gallery had a purely structural purpose or some ceremonial function. But if you walk it slowly, really slowly, you start to feel like you are being funneled toward something significant. You imagine the priests guiding initiates up this passage. Slow steps, steady chanting, torches in hand, casting jittery shadows that look suspiciously like dancing jackals. Each step a prayer, each breath a decision. Keep going or turn back. You keep going. Fringe theorists love this part. Some claim the Grand Gallery was designed to amplify sound waves in just the right way to stimulate pineal gland activity. That is right. Your third eye, the squishy little gland in your brain that produces melatonin, and according to esoteric texts and enthusiastic YouTube channels, also serves as a gateway to higher consciousness. Who needs Netflix when you have internal biochemistry and 5,000 tons of acoustic limestone? Mainstream Egyptologists naturally tend to roll their eyes at this. To them, it is just a very well-engineered ramp with some architectural quirks. But again, that lingering question arises. If the pyramid was just a tomb, why all the flair? Why the angles? Why the resonance? Because maybe it is not just about death. Maybe it is about practice, about simulating death so you can learn how to live. Pyramid sleep therapy was not a luxury spa day. It was a confrontation, a spiritual escape room. Except there was no timer, no panic button, and no free t-shirt at the end. You reach the top of the gallery in your mind and find yourself standing before the so-called King's Chamber again. But this time it looks different, not physically, mentally. You are not just entering a room, you are entering yourself. And here is the kicker. The chamber is deliberately bare. No hieroglyphs, no carvings, no color, just stone. So quiet it aches. The only thing inside is the granite box. No lid, no mummy, just potential. Some say this box was a sarcophagus. Others say is an altar. Still others suggest it was a resonance chamber, a place where a human body could lie, perfectly aligned, and vibrate into spiritual attunement. Sounds like science fiction, until you lie down in your imagination and feel your spine line up with the geometry of the room. Weird, right? There is a term that ancient mystery enthusiasts love: initiation chamber. The idea that these spaces were meant for transformative experiences, not just funerary rites. You would fast, you would be purifying, you would be led in silence, and then you would sleep in the chamber. Not nap, sleep. That deep, almost comatose sleep where your body stays, but your consciousness wanders. You are expected to dream, or hallucinate, or receive visions. The exact experience did not matter. What mattered was that you came out changed. Maybe that is why the chamber is so blank, like a reset button, a place where your mind has no cues, no stimulation, so it projects everything it needs to, like dreaming inside a mirror. You do not see what is there. You see what is true. You lie in the granite box again. No one tells you what to do. There is no script, just the deep, humming silence and the ever-present geometry. You think you hear something, a low tone, like the sound of a cello string being bowed from the inside out. It could be real. It could be your imagination. Either way, it is happening to you. And then you are asleep again. You dream of water, a vast black river under a starless sky. You are floating, not paddling, not swimming, just moving. Somewhere ahead, you see a single light, like a torch floating on its own. It flickers, it grows closer, and then it disappears inside you. When you wake, there is no fear, just a feeling like the tide pulling back from shore. Something has been washed away. You cannot name it, but its absence is almost tactile. This is the heart of pyramid sleep therapy. Not healing in the modern sense, not comfort or convenience, but confrontation, purification, and alignment. You do not come here to relax. You come here to return to something older, stranger, and quieter. You sit up inside the granite box and feel the air shift slightly around you. The silence is heavier now, but not oppressive. It feels earned, like the pyramid is no longer watching you, but waiting for you to decide what comes next. You climb out. Your footsteps echo differently now, softer, as if the pyramid knows you are no longer just visiting. You do not remember walking out of the king's chamber. It is more like you are nudged, gently, imperceptibly, down a new path. No torchlight this time, just a faint glow that seems to emanate from nowhere in particular. The walls pulse with an energy that is not light and not sound, but something that nestles into the space between your ribs and makes itself at home. This is the descent, not just a physical one, but a mental peeling away. You are no longer the person who entered this pyramid. You are a sleeper mid-transformation, sliding into the dream deeper than ever before. But first, there is a detour, because even in sleep, the Egyptians believed the soul had business to attend to. You are ushered toward a smaller chamber, one the size of a modest walk-in closet. It is windowless, featureless, and yet the moment you cross the threshold, your skin tightens like you have stepped into a different atmosphere, heavier, thicker. This is the sensory deprivation zone. Modern science might call it a float tank without the water. You would recognize it as a place where the outside world vanishes. No sound, no light, no temperature cues. Just you and the storm of your thoughts. It is like being buried in velvet. Uncomfortable velvet, mind you, but still velvet. Why? Because clarity, the Egyptians believed, required friction. Before divine messages could be received, the mental static had to be cleared. And what better way to do that than by forcing your brain to notice its own madness? You are here to listen not just to the gods, but to yourself, which is arguably more terrifying. Mainstream Egyptologists rarely mention chambers like these in the pyramids, because officially they do not exist. But look closely at the blueprints, particularly in lesser-known pyramids like those at Dashur, and you will find odd nooks, dead-end tunnels, sealed voids that serve no structural purpose. Historians still argue whether these were architectural accidents, storage for ritual gear, or parts of a long-lost ceremonial sequence. Fringe theorists, oh, they love this part. They say these chambers were designed as energy isolators, places where electromagnetic interference dropped to near zero, allowing the sleeper's internal frequency to harmonize with something cosmic, Others say these were places for astral projection, launch pads for the soul to exit the body and begin its little field trip through eternity. As you lie on the floor of this chamber, your mind begins to compress. Thoughts race, then slow, then fragment. You think about laundry, then about stars, then about a beetle you saw 3 years ago, then silence. Not outer silence, inner silence. And into that silence comes a memory, or maybe a message. A voice, not loud, not distinct, simply present. It says something like, "You have always been here." And suddenly, your brain stops trying to make sense of it. You are not supposed to. See, in pyramid sleep therapy, understanding was less important than transformation. The Egyptians were not looking for clear answers. They were after change. Sleep was not passive. It was a rite, a test, a tunnel. One particularly quirky belief, recorded in a few fragmentary scrolls and later echoed in Greco-Egyptian mystery cults, held that during sacred sleep, your soul actually detached, like mist off a river, and wandered the halls of the afterlife. It would speak to spirits, witness scenes from other lifetimes. Occasionally, it might even eavesdrop on the gods. The risk? You might not come back. But if you did come back, you came back wiser, different. Not just a person, but a vessel, a messenger. You were no longer dreaming. You were carrying something. That is the kind of drama you are now waist deep in. You open your eyes. The chamber looks exactly the same, but you are seeing it differently. It is not a room. It is a process, a chrysalis. And you? You are mid-metamorphosis, half human, half hypnos, floating between realities like a confused butterfly in linen pajamas. You are guided, again, not by hands, but by feeling, out of the chamber, through another hallway, slightly downward. The floor is uneven. Stones press into your bare feet, reminding you that you still have one toe in the physical world. And then, a curve. Most pyramid passageways are brutally linear. This one is different. It spirals, just slightly, enough to make you feel like you are inside a shell, coiling inward, or maybe outward. Hard to tell. Why would a spiral exist in a pyramid? Some believe it was symbolic. Spirals represented life, growth, and cycles. Others say they were part of secret rituals known only to high priests, pathways that had to be walked in silence, always turning left, to mirror the sun's movement across the sky. Or perhaps they were psychological tools, deliberately disorienting the sleeper, breaking the logic of waking life to prepare them for something else entirely. You follow the curve. You feel your thoughts bending with it. You arrive at another space, bigger this time, not ornate, but purposeful. Carvings on the walls, this time, not stories, symbols, stars, eyes, wings, the kinds of things that feel like they are watching you even when they are not. You are instructed to lie down again. No bed, just stone, warm this time. You are closer to the heart of the pyramid, and everything radiates a kind of mineral heat. Not hot, just ancient. Here, the final phase begins. Not the end of your journey, just the deepest point. Like the ocean floor, you are asked, silently, to release everything: name, thought, identity, to surrender to the experience and let the pyramid do the rest. You do not resist. You could not even if you wanted to. You sleep. But this time, it is not just a dream. It is a visit. This time, your dream does not ease in with fog and symbols. It hits like a tidal wave, fast, full, and oddly specific. You are standing on the banks of a great black river again, but now the boat is waiting. It is not a canoe or a raft. It is ornate, gilded, impossibly smooth, and entirely silent. A solar bark, just like the one Ra uses to sail the heavens, according to Egyptian mythology. But here's the twist. There is no sun overhead, just a deep, glimmerless blue, like bruised glass. You step in. No paddles, no oars. The boat moves on its own. It glides through the still water like thought, cutting through sleep. And then the whispers begin, not voices from outside, but from memory. Your own, you think. Snippets of arguments, childhood recollections, unfinished thoughts, half-dreamt desires. It is like your mind is being read aloud by someone with no sense of privacy or pacing. This is the phase the priests called the night journey, and it was no small deal. Mainstream historians acknowledge the concept of the duat, the Egyptian underworld, but usually as a mythological construct, not a nightly travel plan. Yet for those trained in pyramid sleep therapy, the duat was a literal space the soul entered during sacred sleep, not just after death, but whenever it was called. And guess what? You were just called. Fringe theorists love to point out that the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead is less a book of the dead and more like a user's guide for conscious dreaming, a how-to manual for surviving the post-death experience, except used while you are still alive. Why wait for death to learn the ropes? So here you are, inside a symbolic, or maybe not so symbolic, simulation of that journey. And it is just as confusing as it sounds. The boat enters a cave. The water turns viscous, like syrup. Around you, figures loom, some human, some not. You pass a being with the head of a jackal, its body wrapped in stars. It says nothing, just watches. Further on, you see a crocodile in robes. He smiles. You flinch. Understandable. Historians still argue whether these images were literal gods, symbolic representations of inner fears, or culturally curated psychological projections. But in pyramid sleep therapy, they all served a purpose: to test you, to reveal your hidden cracks. And you? You are cracking just fine, thank you. You try to speak, but no words form. Not because you cannot, but because you are not supposed to. This is not a place for talking. It is a place for witnessing. So you observe. You pass through 7 gates. Each one opens with a different sound. A bell, a hiss, a heartbeat, a human breath, a low animal growl, a flute, and finally, complete silence. Each gate feels like shedding a layer. You do not know what you are leaving behind, but with each step you feel lighter, stranger, emptier. At the last gate, a figure appears, enormous, not a god, exactly, more like a symbol made flesh. It has no face, just a mirror, and when you look into it, you do not see your reflection. You see yourself in every version. Happy you, scared you, angry, lost, hopeful, exhausted, silly, loving, petty, generous, and deeply weird you. And then all the versions dissolve, and only one remains. The version of you that is not trying to be anything, just being. That is when you wake up, back in the pyramid on the stone floor. Same room, different you. The silence is not so loud now. The weight in your chest, gone. Your body feels rested, yes, but more than that, balanced. Like your organs have taken a team building workshop. There is a concept that modern psychology might admire here: symbolic death as a form of therapeutic renewal. Let the ego dissolve so the real self can surface. Shadow work, you could call it. Archetypal reintegration, inner recalibration. The Egyptians just called it preparation, because to them, this was not just about sleep. It was about readiness. Readiness for the afterlife, sure, but also for this life, the one you are walking now, barefoot and dazed, through sacred geometry. You rise slowly and notice that the symbols on the wall seem different. They have not changed. You have. You understand them now, not with the mind, but with the gut. You know what the stars mean. You know why the wings are open. You do not need to say it. You just carry it. One fringe belief, barely mentioned in dusty texts, and mostly passed along in esoteric circles, says that the pyramid was designed as a consciousness filter, a place that compressed and clarified whatever entered it. Only those with the stamina to go deep could emerge on the other side with a message worth sharing. You are now one of those people. Congratulations. You are officially someone with weird dreams and vague enlightenment. It is a niche community, very exclusive, but your journey is not over. You are guided, again, without instruction, toward one final passage. This one slants upward, a return path, but unlike before, it does not feel like a climb. It feels like a rising, like waking up after years underwater. As you ascend, you pass carvings of lotuses, ankhs, and open eyes, all symbols of life, rebirth, and awareness. The hallway narrows, then widens. Light, real light, pale and golden, begins to seep in around the edges. You are leaving the pyramid, but the pyramid is not leaving you. You step into the light with your eyes half-lidded, not from brightness, but from that lingering heaviness of a soul halfway between worlds. The sun does not blind you. It kisses your skin like a friend who never left, and only now do you realize how much you missed it. The desert air is dry and unforgiving, but after the pyramid's thick stillness, even the heat feels like freedom. You have exited through a back opening, one of those mysterious side doors scholars can never quite agree on. Some say they were for ventilation, others ceremonial routes. A few quietly suggest they were escape paths for initiates who had seen just a bit too much and needed to stagger into the sand before they screamed. Historians still argue whether these so-called subterranean egress tunnels were intentional or simply the result of failed construction phases. But here you are, standing at one, breathing in air that smells of history and dryness and faintly of goat. And here is the kicker. No one is around. You are not escorted back. No priest to nod wisely at your progress. No attendants to hand you figs and congratulatory linen. You are alone. That, too, was part of the design. The final phase of pyramid sleep therapy was not done in the darkness. It happened here, on your feet, under the sun, squinting into a horizon that looks both familiar and strange. Because now you must interpret what happened, and the Egyptians, clever as ever, made sure you did it solo. That is why the sacred sleep experience ended not with ritual fanfare, but with nothing. Silence, dust, and maybe a vague desire for water. You are not confused, exactly, but you are altered. Your thoughts are slower, more deliberate, like they are being filtered through sand. You walk, because what else is there to do? Each footstep on the warm rock seems louder now. Each grain of sand feels like a tiny messenger, and you begin to notice symbols in the landscape. Palm shadows shaped like eyes, cracks in rocks that resemble birds, or just the way the wind moves like it knows your name. And then, a small structure ahead, not a temple, not a palace, a house. This, too, was part of the sleep therapy, because the Egyptians believed that integration mattered as much as initiation. You could not just dive into sacred sleep and then bounce back into normal life as if nothing happened. There had to be a re-entry phase, a decompression chamber for the soul. This house is small and rectangular, made from mud brick and set apart from the others like a hermit's hut. And inside, it is cool, sparse, clean. You are meant to stay here for a few days. Why? Because after spiritual sleep, your perceptions are unstable. You might hear voices, see odd patterns in the stars, or think the village cat is Osiris. You are not crazy. You are just transitional. Priests would sometimes visit you here, not to interpret your dreams for you, but to ask questions. They would listen, nod, offer herbs, maybe wave incense around if you looked particularly rattled. But mostly, they left you alone. This quiet post-sleep phase was known as Seket Senu, or the field of stillness. Not an actual field, but a mental space, a processing zone. Quirky tidbit? Some modern sleep scientists unknowingly replicate this in post-lucid dream therapy. They advise clients to spend 24 to 48 hours journaling, resting, and minimizing stimuli, because intense dreaming rewires things, neurons, emotional associations, possibly your taste in music. Who knows? So you do the same. You lie on a mat. You drink herbal tea from a clay cup. It tastes like licorice and regret. You stare at the ceiling. You think, a lot. And your dreams now? Still vivid, but less terrifying. You dream of birds that speak riddles, of boats that fly instead of float, of your own face reflected in water, changing slightly each time you blink. You begin to write, or rather, you must write. It is part of the final step, documenting the dream journey. Egyptians called these night scrolls. They were not always literal scrolls. sometimes painted slabs, sometimes symbolic drawings, but they were required, not for show, for survival, because what you saw in the pyramid was not just your own subconscious. It was a glimpse into the structure of being, a chance to remember truths forgotten the moment you took your first breath, and if you did not record it, you would lose it, like mist by noon. Some of the greatest spiritual texts, priests claimed, were born from these dream writings, not dictated by gods, but inspired by the echo of sleep. Your scroll begins with something simple, a shape, a circle inside a triangle. You're not sure why, but it feels right. Then a phrase, one you heard in the dream river, but could not grasp until now. The beginning and the return are the same point. Well, that is cryptic. Thanks, Ra. You chuckle to yourself, which is weird. You have not laughed in a few days. That, too, is healing. You spend 3 days in the house, maybe 4. Time is weird now. The sunrises feel stretched, the nights too short. You eat little, sleep more, but when you walk out again, back toward the village or temple or whatever waits for you, you are different. Your walk is calmer, your breath deeper. You see the world not as a place, but as a story, a layered, bizarre, beautiful, dusty story, one where you are both author and footnote. Back in ancient Egypt, pyramid sleep therapy was reserved for the few, the elite, yes, but also the spiritually desperate, people looking for something they could not name. You get it now, and even though you are out of the pyramid, you can still feel its weight, not on your shoulders, but in your blood, like it left a signature in your bones, a secret handshake with the divine. You keep walking, and as you do, you pass a man carrying a basket of onions. He looks at you, you look at him, and in that brief glance, you both understand. He has been through the pyramid too. He just nods and keeps walking. Back in the heart of civilization, or at least the part with snacks and conversation, you feel like a ghost wandering among the uninitiated. The world has not changed, but you have. Children still chase goats through the dusty alleys. Merchants still shout half-hearted deals in the heat. Temple scribes still argue about ink consistency. But now, everything feels faintly hilarious. You are still glowing, though not in a literal sense. More like an inner, moisturized calm. Your thoughts float, your reflexes lag, and you smile at inappropriate moments. This is the pyramid hangover, and it is very real. The priests, of course, pretend not to notice. They hand you a modest bundle, bread, dried fish, maybe a small charm wrapped in palm fiber. Practical things. No one throws you a welcome back party. Pyramid therapy was not for prestige. It was for alignment. You survived it. You are changed. Great. Here is some fish. You wander into a shaded courtyard where initiates often gather to compare dream residue. And here is where things get unexpectedly bureaucratic. Because even though the pyramid journey was deeply personal, the Egyptians loved documenting. Carvings, scrolls, wall paintings. If you saw something profound, it needed to go in the archives for spiritual posterity, or just for the next poor soul to stumble through a hallway of jackals. You are brought to the House of Life, a scriptorium basically filled with reed pens, pigments, stacks of papyrus, and scribes who squint too much. You are gently asked to contribute, not interpret, not impress, just record. Mainstream historians know about these houses of life. They pop up in temple complexes across Egypt, places like Abydos, Edfu, and Karnak. What many people do not realize is that part of their function was mental integration, like ancient wellness centers with scrolls instead of smoothies. Fringe theories go further. They claim these institutions were early precursors to modern psychotherapy, not woo-woo temples, but methodical clinics where dream narratives were analyzed not just for prophecy, but for patterns, emotional logic, symbols that repeated across different sleepers. Historians still argue whether this dream mapping was proto-scientific or purely religious. But one thing is certain: your scroll, humble as it may be, will join the vault. So you write, you describe the boat, the mirror-faced being, the hissing gate. You do not bother trying to sound profound. It comes out plain, raw, the way it happened. A few lines trail off mid-thought, but the scribe does not care. He nods and takes the scroll without reading. It will be stored, possibly forgotten, or possibly used in training the next initiate. And just like that, your story is no longer just yours. Later that evening, you are invited to a small gathering in a quiet chamber, low cushions, soft lamps, that one herb that smells like sadness and sandalwood. This is a dream circle, a custom practice not everywhere in Egypt, but enough to raise eyebrows in neighboring regions. It is not therapy, exactly, more like storytelling with rules. You take turns. You only speak in the present tense. No names, no judgment. You hear someone describe a dream of falling through a field of ice. Someone else saw a lion speak in riddles, while their mother wept beside a burning fig tree. Another dreamed of swimming through sand endlessly, while holding a baby that kept turning into a fish. You listen, and then it is your turn. You begin. I walk into a river of thoughts. My feet remember things before my mind does, and you realize you are speaking like someone else, or maybe like everyone else. The pyramid did not just change you, it tuned you to a shared frequency. You are now part of a lineage of dreamers who leave normal sleep behind and come back with half-broken puzzle pieces. You are interrupted by a soft laugh. Someone recognizes your story, not the details, the shape of it. They had the mirror, too. In that moment, you understand something fundamental about pyramid sleep therapy. It was never meant to be a solitary journey, no matter how lonely it felt. You were always part of a pattern. Your dream symbols weave into someone else's. The crocodile in your dream tells a joke in theirs. The boat you rowed is the same one they burned. The gods laugh softly behind the veil, amused that you thought this was ever about you. After the circle, someone presses a small object into your hand. It is a scarab, stone, polished, heavy for its size. Inscribed underneath are the words, Kaperu. You know the word. It means becoming, transformation. The scarab itself was a symbol of Ra, pushing the sun across the sky. but it also meant rebirth, daily, spiritual, metaphysical. It is not a gift, it is a reminder. Because even though you are no longer inside the pyramid, your dream journey continues. Every night from now on will be slightly stranger. Sleep will never be just sleep again. And that scarab? You are supposed to bury it eventually, in a place that means something, or throw it into the Nile, or feed it to a bird. The interpretations vary, but first, you keep it. That night, you sleep in an open-air room, under a net of stars and breeze. No roof, just the sky. No guards, just the feeling of being watched in the best way. Watched by memory, watched by symbols, watched by the part of yourself that never sleeps. And your dream? You are back in the boat, but this time, you are not alone. Someone is with you. You cannot see their face, but they hum a song that you think you heard once as a child. You do not talk. You just sail through sky instead of water, past pyramids that float, towards something you cannot name, but recognize. You wake with your eyes already open, not metaphorically. You literally come to consciousness without the usual fog or fluttering of lashes. It is like your body was waiting for your mind to catch up. The sun is rising again, and you are starting to suspect it always is. Time here is tricky. It loops. It hovers. Days blur together like ink on wet papyrus. But today feels transitional. You are not alone anymore. That is not poetic. It is logistical. The temple complex now buzzes. Other initiates, fresh-faced and nervously wide-eyed, are filing in, hands clutched around tokens or scrolls, or just their own breath. You recognize them, not their faces, but their gait. They walk the way you did, a step behind themselves, as if still shaking sand out of their dreams. You are now, oddly enough, the senior one. No title, no fancy robe, but people glance at you with that look, half curiosity, half low-grade fear. You have seen the inside. You survive the sleep. You wear that knowledge like a smell. And here is where things get even weirder. You are now expected to teach. Not full lessons, not official doctrine, just stories, impressions, hints. You are seated in a corner of the courtyard with a circle of fresh initiates around you. Someone calls it informal oral transmission, but really, it is just nap time with metaphors. You tell them about the mirror-faced being. You describe the endless hallway that bent in on itself. You pause dramatically before the crocodile that told you your own name backwards. A few laugh. One takes notes. Mainstream history records these moments as folklore exchange, minor side rituals not officially sanctioned by temple authorities. But you know better. This was training, the most important kind. Because if a new initiate heard their own symbols in someone else's dream, it meant the patterns were real. It meant they were not losing their minds, just mapping new ones. You teach them how to dream deliberately. That is, how to enter sleep like a sculptor, not a sponge. To hold one thought lightly before drifting off. A question, a symbol, a single sound, and to wait, not force, a reply. One initiate asks, "But how do I know it is working?" You reply with a shrug. You will dream of onions. Then you will know. They blink. You do not elaborate. That is part of the test. Quirky fact: ancient Egyptian sleep training included what modern psychologists would call hypnagogic priming. That is, deliberately seeding the mind during the liminal phase before sleep. They used smells like blue lotus, rhythmic chants, and repetitive images to anchor the mind. Kind of like lucid dreaming's eccentric uncle who wears too much gold and insists your ancestors are listening. Historians still argue whether this sleep prep was meant for divine communication or just to manage anxiety. But when you have been inside the pyramid, you know, it is both. That afternoon, a priest calls you aside, not one of the grumpy ones with flared nostrils and complex sandals. This one is silent and smooth, like he glides rather than walks. He does not introduce himself. He just gestures for you to follow. You do. He leads you into a chamber you have never entered before. Not a dream room. Not a script hall. This one smells of ink, wax, and old air. And it is full of boxes. Wooden, carved, sealed. He picks one and opens it. Inside, scrolls. Hundreds. He pulls one out, unrolls it partway, and there, written in the neat hand of someone long dead, is a phrase you recognize. The beginning and the return are the same point. Your phrase, your dream, written centuries ago. You step back. He says, softly, "This is not the first time you dreamed it." You ask, "How is that possible?" He smiles. Some dreams repeat across lifetimes. They just wear different costumes. And here, dear dreamer, you begin to understand another layer of pyramid sleep therapy, recurrence. That dreams were not one-time experiences, but cyclical revelations, not just reflecting your life, but all lives, archetypes, shared psychic architecture, like tuning forks across generations vibrating to the same silent chord. That is why the scrolls were kept, not for the historians, for the future dreamers, so they would not have to start from scratch. You are invited to contribute your own, not just your record, your interpretation, your map. They hand you a fresh scroll, a fine reed pen, a little dish of ink that smells faintly of figs and metal, and you write, not a narrative, a guide. You sketch the river and the boat. You mark where the voice first speaks. You describe the room where all the walls breathe. You add small warnings, like, do not touch the second mirror. And the jackal is helpful, but a liar. It is part dream diary, part spiritual field manual, like a traveler's guide to Oniric Egypt. When you finish, the priest takes the scroll and adds it to the box. No ceremony, just a quiet nod, and you understand that even that gesture is sacred. Later that night, you lie under the stars again. But this time, something is different. You are not dreaming. You are invited. You feel the shift as soon as your eyes close. No fog, no delay. You are there, in a vast hall of doors. And you know, one of them leads to the dream of someone who will walk into the pyramid 100 years from now. And if you are lucky, you will meet them, not in person, in vision, because the pyramid is not a tomb. It is a switchboard, a place where minds connect across time. And somehow, impossibly, It remembers you. You drift back into wakefulness, feeling like you have been underwater for hours, only to realize the water was your own mind. The pyramid's whispers still hum softly in your ears, as if the stones themselves refuse to let go of your presence. You find yourself wondering what the outside world looks like now, but the question feels trivial. You have become part of something much larger. That morning, as the sun creeps higher, you step outside the temple complex, and the air feels different, thicker, charged. The everyday bustle of the market, the rhythmic thudding of the potter's wheel, even the stray cat snapping on sun-warmed stones, all seem oddly tuned to some secret frequency you can almost hear. Your sleep inside the pyramid was not just a dream or a ritual, it was a recalibration. You are walking with a new pulse. As you wander through the town, you catch sight of a group of artisans working on a massive statue, an unfinished colossus of a pharaoh whose face is still a mystery. You pause to watch the sculptor's hands, calloused and precise, chiseling away the limestone block. The statue's limbs are thick with promise, but still waiting to be shaped. You feel a strange kinship. Your own self feels similarly unfinished, carved by forces you barely understand. Here's a mainstream historical fact for you. The Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed around 2580 to 2560 BCE, designed primarily as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. It was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. The sheer scale of its construction remains one of the greatest architectural mysteries. But there's a quirky tidbit. Some fringe Egyptologists suggest the pyramids were actually built as giant resonators, tuned to specific acoustic frequencies, designed to amplify the voices of the gods, or to induce altered states in those inside. Whether or not that's true, you cannot deny that the pyramid seemed to have reshaped your consciousness, as if its walls hummed with unseen vibrations. Historians still argue whether the pyramid's true purpose was strictly funerary, or if it served other mystical or scientific functions. Some believe it was an ancient machine for transformation rather than just a tomb. Back at the temple complex, you're summoned to join a group of elders in a small chamber adorned with faded frescoes. They speak in hushed tones about the alignment of souls, a sacred event believed to occur when the stars align with the pyramid's apex. This event supposedly opens a gateway, allowing the spirits of the living and the dead to mingle. You listen carefully as one elder explains that the pyramid's design was based on sacred geometry intended to harmonize human consciousness with the cosmos. The placement of chambers, the slope of the walls, the orientation to cardinal points, all are part of this grand cosmic alignment. You feel the weight of their words, even if part of you wonders how much is poetic interpretation and how much is actual ancient science. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians had such advanced astronomical knowledge, or if modern enthusiasts are reading too much into their alignments. That night, you participate in a rare ritual, the Night of Echoes, when initiates gather to chant inside the pyramid's chambers, their voices weaving a tapestry of sound that resonates against the ancient stone. You join in, feeling the vibrations ripple through your body, like waves carrying you across time and space. This experience feels like the pyramid itself is breathing through you, a living monument, not just to death, but to transformation. Before you sleep, you clutch the scarab charm tightly, the reminder of your journey and the endless cycle of becoming. You realize that the pyramid sleep therapy is more than a rite or a mystery. It is an invitation to awaken, to see the world anew, to listen to the whispers beneath the surface. And as you close your eyes, you wonder what dreams tonight will bring. The morning light filters softly through your window, brushing your skin like the faintest whisper. You wake with a quiet sense of anticipation, as if today holds a secret you are only just beginning to grasp. The pyramid's lingering effects pulse gently beneath your skin, an echo that refuses to fade. You stretch and rise, feeling the familiar yet strangely foreign sensation of being both anchored and adrift. Your feet touch the cool floor, and you remind yourself the real world is still here, waiting. But you are not quite the same traveler who walked in. At the temple courtyard, you find a small group gathered around an elder who holds a delicate papyrus scroll. The elder's eyes gleam with the light of someone about to unveil a hidden truth. They begin to speak of the sacred sound, an ancient chant believed to open the doors between the conscious and unconscious realms. You listen as the chant is described, a series of low, resonant tones, modulated rhythmically, designed to sync the heartbeat with the universe. You can almost hear it in the air, a hum beneath the market's clamor, a vibration inside your chest. Mainstream historians acknowledge that music and chanting played vital roles in Egyptian rituals, often invoking gods or preparing participants for spiritual experiences. But here's a quirky detail. Some researchers propose that certain sounds, especially low-frequency chants, may have influenced brainwaves, inducing trance-like or meditative states, early forms of sound therapy, if you will. Historians still argue whether these chants were merely symbolic or had practical neurological effects. You suspect the answer is both, intertwined like the threads of a tapestry. Later, you are guided to a hidden chamber behind a false wall, an alcove where initiates recorded their most profound dreams using a system of symbols rather than words. It is a kind of proto-writing, dense and mysterious, resembling a hybrid between hieroglyphics and abstract art. You trace your fingers over the carved symbols, feeling the smooth grooves and imagining the minds that crafted them. This dream script was said to map not only the dream content, but the dreamer's emotional state and spiritual progress, a sort of ancient mood ring in ink. You ask the elder about the origins of this script, and they reply with a cryptic smile. It came from the whispers of the gods, but was refined by the hands of those who dared to listen closely. This notion of dreams as messages from gods or the universe is well documented. However, fringe theories claim that such scripts may encode mathematical patterns or even early forms of encryption, blending art and science in ways modern scholars still puzzle over. As the sun sets, you return to your quarters, mind buzzing with the day's revelations. You sit quietly, scarab charm in hand, and begin to attempt the chant yourself, feeling the vibration ripple through your throat and chest. Your voice wavers, falters, then steadies. The room seems to tilt slightly, shadows stretching and bending as if responding to the sound. You close your eyes and feel the boundary between waking and dreaming soften once more. Sleep beckons, but this time you understand it differently. It is not an escape but an opening, not a void but a portal, and you are ready to step through again. You slip into sleep with the chant still vibrating softly in your mind, a low hum beneath the surface of consciousness. The transition is smoother than before, as if the pyramid's influence has conditioned your very nervous system to accept this new state. You find yourself once again in the endless hallway, but this time the walls ripple like water, shimmering with iridescent light. The air smells faintly of myrrh and wet stone. You realize that this place is not static. It is alive, breathing in time with your own heartbeat. Ahead, a figure waits, a priestess clothed in linen, so sheer it seems spun from moonlight. She beckons you forward with a smile that is both warm and unreadable. You follow. She leads you to a chamber where the floor is covered with symbols arranged in concentric circles. The center glows with a soft blue light. You recognize the patterns, some from your scrolls, others new and strange. Step inside, she says. You do. The light wraps around you like a cool breeze, and your body feels weightless. You begin to perceive layers of sound, tones beneath tones, rhythms beneath rhythms. It is as if the very geometry of the room is singing. You realize that this chamber is designed not just to be seen, but to be experienced. An ancient synesthetic temple where shape, sound, and sensation merge. Historians know that the Egyptians placed great importance on sacred geometry, using shapes like the triangle, circle, and spiral in their architecture and art. The pyramid itself is a manifestation of this, an earthly echo of cosmic order. Here is a quirky fact. Some fringe researchers claim that the Egyptians encoded healing frequencies into their temple designs, effectively turning buildings into giant musical instruments tuned to the human body's natural vibrations. Historians still argue whether these claims are fanciful or rooted in genuine ancient knowledge. Either way, your experience in this chamber feels undeniably transformative. The priestess guides you through a series of movements, subtle shifts in posture, meant to align your body with the room's energy. You feel your breath deepen, your muscles relax, and a warmth spread from your core outward. This practice reminds you of yoga or Tai Chi, but ancient Egyptian style, a blend of meditation, movement, and ritual. You ask the priestess about this. She replies, "Balance is the foundation of all life. The pyramid teaches us to find harmony within and without." As the ritual ends, you feel a calm clarity that lasts well into your waking hours. The pyramid's mysteries continue to unfold, not as secrets to be solved, but as experiences to be lived. Later, you overhear a debate among scholars. Was pyramid sleep therapy a spiritual discipline, a medical practice, or a form of early psychology? Some argue it was all three, woven together seamlessly in the fabric of ancient Egyptian life. You nod to yourself. That sounds about right. You feel gratitude for the chance to be part of this ongoing story. a link in a chain of dreamers stretching across millennia. And as you prepare for another night inside the pyramid's embrace, you realize one truth: the journey is far from over. You wake slowly, your body still humming with the vibrations from the previous night's ritual. The pyramid's presence feels less like an external force now, and more like a part of your own skin, your own breath. You make your way to the temple library, a dimly lit room stacked with scrolls and tablets, the air thick with the scent of aged papyrus and resin. Here, knowledge is guarded not just by priests, but by silence itself. The flickering torchlight makes shadows dance on the walls, like stories waiting to be told. An elder approaches, carrying a small, ornate box. He opens it carefully, revealing a collection of carved stones, each one etched with symbols you have never seen before. He calls them sleep amulets and explains that each stone is believed to protect and guide the wearer's dreams. Mainstream history confirms that amulets were central in Egyptian culture, used for protection, healing, and spiritual connection. The scarab beetle, for example, symbolized rebirth and transformation. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some amulets were made with materials sourced from far-flung lands: lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, turquoise from Sinai, and even meteorite fragments. This suggests that the Egyptians believed cosmic materials had special powers, linking the heavens to the sleeper's mind. Historians still debate whether these amulets function purely as talismans, or if their designs encoded more complex meanings, perhaps even mnemonic devices to aid memory or dream recall. You are handed one of these stones, a smooth piece of carnelian shaped like a crescent moon. You clutch it in your palm and feel a warmth, as if it responds to your pulse. The elder instructs you to carry the amulet to bed, to wear it during your sleep within the pyramid. He says it will help anchor your spirit and ward off the shadows that hunger. That phrase sends a shiver down your spine, but you nod solemnly. Later that night, as you settle beneath the cool linen sheets, the amulet feels heavy against your skin. You wonder about those shadows, the dark corners of the mind, the fears and memories that lurk beneath conscious thought. You drift into sleep, the amulet's presence like a silent guardian. In the dreamscape, you encounter a dark corridor, its walls pulsating with a slow, heartbeat rhythm. Shadows flicker at the edges, threatening to close in. You clutch your amulet tightly. Suddenly, the shadows recoil, dissolving into wisps of smoke. A soft voice echoes. The light you carry is your shield. You wake before the dream ends, heart pounding, but oddly peaceful. You realize the pyramid's therapy is not just about exploring the heights of consciousness, but confronting its depths. And with the amulet close, you feel braver. You rise with the dawn, the soft glow of morning wrapping around you like a well-worn cloak. The amulet rests warm against your chest, a steady heartbeat in your hand. You are learning that the pyramid's lessons unfold slowly, like the petals of a sacred flower. Today, you join a procession heading toward the Nile's edge. The river is a shimmering ribbon of life, flowing endlessly beneath a cloudless sky. The air smells of papyrus and fresh fish, mingled with the faint aroma of baking bread from nearby homes. As you walk, the procession chants softly, a rhythmic cadence that seems to sync perfectly with the water's gentle lap against the banks. The elders speak of the Nile as the artery of Egypt, the lifeblood of their civilization. Here's a straightforward historical fact. The Nile's annual flooding deposited fertile silt, enabling Egypt's agricultural society to flourish for millennia. The river was as crucial to the Egyptians as air is to us. But here's a quirky twist. Some fringe theories suggest the Nile's flood cycles were not just natural, but carefully managed through ancient engineering, early dams and canals that rival modern irrigation. The precision of such water management is still debated. Historians continue to argue whether the Egyptians' hydraulic engineering was sophisticated, or if much of the landscape was shaped more by nature than design. Near the riverbank, you are invited to participate in a water ritual, a symbolic cleansing that ties you to the cycles of life and death, renewal and decay. The priestess dips her hands in the cool water and sprinkles droplets over your forehead and shoulders. The sensation is refreshing, grounding. You are reminded that the pyramid's power is connected not just to stone and ritual, but to the living world, the water, the sun, the earth. Later, as you walk back, you notice the interplay of light and shadow on the pyramid's surface, the way the golden sun transforms the limestone blocks into glowing amber. You reflect on how light was sacred to the Egyptians, symbolizing creation and rebirth. A quirky fact to keep in mind: the pyramid's casing stones, once polished to a mirror-like shine, were said to reflect sunlight so brilliantly that the structure could be seen from miles away, earning it the name Ikit, or glorious light. Historians still debate how much of the pyramid's outer casing has been lost, and whether the reflective qualities were intentional or incidental. As night approaches, you feel a quiet harmony settling over you. The river's song, the pyramid's silence, the chant's rhythm. They weave together into a tapestry that you are now a thread in. And you realize the journey is not about the destination, but the slow unfolding, the gradual awakening. Tonight, you sleep with the river's flow in your heart. You awaken slowly, still feeling the ripple of the Nile's flow deep in your veins. The pyramid looms beyond the horizon, like a silent sentinel, a stone mountain whose mysteries you have only begun to touch. Today, your path leads to the pyramid's shadow, the vast, barren desert that stretches endlessly beyond the temple complex. The sun is high, and the heat wraps around you like a thick blanket. A scent of dry sand and distant spices fills the air. As you trudge through the sand, your thoughts wander to the desert's role in Egyptian spirituality. It was not just a wasteland, but a sacred space, a place of transformation, exile, and rebirth. The desert's harshness was seen as a trial, a place where souls were tested and purifying. Here's a well-known historical fact. The ancient Egyptians believed that the west bank of the Nile, the land of the setting sun, and the desert was the realm of the dead, where souls journeyed after life. This belief influenced the placement of tombs and necropolises. A quirky detail for you. Some fringe theories propose that the desert's shifting sands may have helped conceal secret entrances or chambers within the pyramid complex, hidden beneath layers of sand and myth. Historians still debate whether such hidden chambers exist, or if the desert's secrets are more symbolic than physical. As you walk, you find a small oasis, a pool of cool water surrounded by palm trees. It feels like a mirage made real, a sudden breath of life amid the arid expanse. You sit by the water's edge, dipping your fingers in the cool liquid, feeling a rare sense of peace. Nearby, you notice a collection of desert glass, naturally formed, translucent shards created by ancient lightning strikes. You recall that these stones were prized by the Egyptians for jewelry and amulets, thought to contain the power of the desert storm. You muse on how the harsh desert and the lush Nile Valley together shaped the Egyptian worldview: life and death, chaos and order, dryness and fertility. The pyramid itself sits at this intersection, a bridge between opposites. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows, you realize how the desert taught patience and resilience, lessons that echo in the pyramid's slow, deliberate construction. That night, you sleep with the desert's stillness in your mind, a quiet strength that you carry like a hidden flame. You awaken to a cool breeze slipping through your quarters, carrying the faint scent of lotus blossoms. Today, the journey leads you deeper into the spiritual heart of the pyramid complex, the Valley Temple, a place where water, stone, and ritual converge. Walking alongside towering limestone pillars, you feel the weight of centuries pressing softly on your shoulders. The temple is designed not just for worship, but for transition, a space where the soul begins its journey from life toward eternity. Here's a foundational historical fact. The Valley Temple was used for the purification of the pharaoh's body before burial, a crucial step in the Egyptian belief system that ensured safe passage to the afterlife. But here's a quirky twist. Archaeologists have found evidence of intricate water channels beneath the temple, suggesting it may have been flooded during ceremonies. Some fringe scholars propose these water rituals symbolized a rebirth in the primordial waters of creation. Historians still argue whether these channels were functional for ritualistic flooding or simply part of the temple's drainage system. You pause beside a basin filled with clear water, watching your reflection ripple and blur. The image feels like a portal, a reminder that identity is fluid, shifting like water itself. A priest approaches, carrying a small bowl of blue pigment made from crushed azurite. He explains that this pigment was used to paint the eyes of statues and walls, believed to awaken spiritual sight. You recall how blue was associated with the heavens, the divine Nile, and protection. The Egyptians believed it held magical properties, connecting earth to sky. You ask if you may have some pigment to carry with you. The priest smiles and gently places a small amount on your palm. Later, you use it to draw a tiny symbol on your wrist, a simple eye, a token of vigilance and insight. As evening falls, the temple is bathed in golden light, and you feel a quiet reverence settling over you. The pyramid's mysteries deepen, not in secrets locked away, but in sacred rituals that transform the ordinary into the eternal. You slip to sleep feeling both fragile and fortified, cradled by the temple's ancient, watery embrace. You awaken to the soft murmur of wind weaving through the limestone blocks outside your chamber. Today, your path leads you to the enigmatic chambers within the pyramid itself, spaces designed for more than mere burial. You navigate narrow passageways, the air growing cooler and denser, the light dimming to a hush. The walls are etched with faint inscriptions, a silent conversation between stone and spirit. Here's a mainstream fact. Inside the Great Pyramid, chambers like the kings and queens were built with precise alignment to celestial bodies, reflecting the Egyptians' sophisticated understanding of astronomy. But here is a quirky detail. Some fringe researchers speculate that the pyramid's internal geometry encodes mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio, suggesting the builders embedded cosmic knowledge within the structure itself. Historians still argue whether these measurements were intentional or coincidental, though the precision is undeniable. As you step into the king's chamber, you feel a stillness so profound it seems to swallow sound. The granite walls absorb your breath, holding it in a timeless pause. You notice small shafts extending from the chamber, aligned to specific stars. The ancient Egyptians believed these shafts were pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the heavens. You press your hand against the cool stone, imagining the countless feet and hands that built this place, an enduring monument to human will and mystery. A faint hum seems to vibrate in the walls, a sound that is both mechanical and mystical. You wonder if the pyramid once functioned as a resonator, amplifying sound or energy in ways now lost. You recall hearing tales of pyramid power, a modern idea that pyramids can preserve food or sharpen razors simply through their shape. While scientists dismiss these claims, the persistence of the myth reveals our fascination with the pyramid's unexplained forces. As night falls, you lie on a smooth stone slab, the geometry of the chamber cradling your body. The silence is a deep well, inviting you to dive inward. You feel connected, past, present, and future folding together in this sacred space. Sleep arrives like a whispered secret, promising new revelations beyond the veil. You awaken wrapped in the soft warmth of dawn filtering through your chamber's narrow slit. Today, you explore the mysterious rituals surrounding the pyramid's completion, moments of celebration and secrecy that marked the transition from construction to eternal purpose. The air is thick with incense and anticipation as you join a small gathering near the pyramid's base. Priests and workers mingle, their faces glowing in the flickering torchlight. You sense a palpable energy, relief, pride, and a touch of reverence. Historically, the completion of a pyramid was a monumental event, often accompanied by elaborate ceremonies invoking the gods and affirming the pharaoh's divine status. Here's an odd little fact. Some texts suggest that the final stone placed, the capstone or benben, was sometimes covered in gold leaf, intended to reflect the sun's rays and symbolize the connection between earth and sky. Historians debate whether these golden capstones actually existed or are symbolic elements that have been lost to time. You watch as a priest raises his arms skyward, chanting words that ripple through the night air. The crowd responds with rhythmic clapping and low hums, a sonic echo of the pyramid's ancient heartbeat. You reflect on how the pyramid's construction was not just a physical feat but a spiritual journey, binding the people together in shared purpose. A quirky detail catches your attention. Some fringe theories claim that the pyramid's builders possessed advanced knowledge of acoustics, using sound to synchronize labor and maintain morale, an ancient form of team-building soundtrack. Historians remain skeptical, but admit that music and rhythm played essential roles in Egyptian rituals and daily life. As the ceremony winds down, you feel a quiet awe settle over the landscape. The pyramid stands majestic, a testament to human ambition and faith. You drift to sleep beneath the shadow of this eternal monument, your mind humming with chants, light, and stone. You awaken to a gentle breeze, carrying the scent of blooming acacia. Today, your journey turns inward to the psychological and spiritual legacy of pyramid sleep therapy and its echoes in modern thought. You find yourself in a quiet chamber lined with soft cushions and flickering lamps. The atmosphere encourages introspection, inviting you to explore the inner landscapes the pyramid helped unlock. A historical fact: ancient Egyptians placed great importance on dreams as messages from the gods, guiding decisions and healing ailments. Dream interpretation was a serious discipline, with specialized priests acting as intermediaries. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some fringe scholars argue that pyramid sleep therapy was an early form of what we now call lucid dreaming or guided meditation, used to access altered states of consciousness intentionally. Historians still argue whether these practices were widespread or reserved for elite initiates, but the connection between architecture and altered states remains a fascinating puzzle. You close your eyes, letting the quiet envelop you. Thoughts drift like desert clouds, sometimes clear, sometimes opaque. You sense a timeless dialogue between mind and matter, body and spirit, stone and soul. You ponder the pyramid's influence on later cultures, noting how its symbolism persists, from New Age spirituality to architectural design, often detached from its original context, but still potent. As you breathe deeply, you feel a bridge spanning millennia, linking your modern mind to ancient seekers who rested beneath the same stars, seeking peace, insight, and transformation. Sleep comes softly, a gentle surrender into the vast unknown. You awaken slowly, the last light of dawn filtering softly through your chamber. Today marks the final stage of your journey through the pyramid's mysteries, the synthesis of all you have learned, felt, and experienced. The pyramid now feels less like a distant monument and more like a living presence, a companion in your search for rest and understanding. You walk once more among the stones, tracing your fingers along the weathered edges, remembering the amulets, the river, the desert, the temple rituals, and the quiet chambers where ancient secrets whispered. Here's a well-known fact. The Great Pyramid remained the tallest man-made structure for over 3,800 years, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. A quirky fact to leave you with: some modern experiments have tested pyramid shapes for effects on plant growth, crystal energy, and even meditation focus. with mixed and often humorous results showing how ancient wonders continue to inspire curious minds. Historians still debate the full purpose of the pyramid, tomb, temple, cosmic symbol, or perhaps something else entirely. The mystery endures, inviting endless exploration. You settle down one last time, the amulet warm against your skin, the soft hum of the night a lullaby. You reflect on the pyramid's greatest secret, not a hidden chamber or lost knowledge, but the timeless human quest for peace, meaning, and connection. Sleep welcomes you gently now, a calm tide pulling you deeper. The pyramid stones stand silent outside, eternal witnesses to your voyage. As you drift deeper into sleep, let your mind wander softly through the echoes of this ancient journey. Imagine the cool stone beneath your fingertips, the warm desert sun on your face, and the gentle murmur of the Nile carrying whispers from a time long past. The pyramid, with all its secrets and silent strength, has shared its story with you, not in loud proclamations, but in quiet moments of reflection, in the subtle pulse of history and myth intertwined. Remember that this journey is more than a tale of stones and rituals. It is a gentle reminder of our own search for rest, peace, and meaning, a search that has spanned thousands of years and will continue long after we have turned out our own lights. The pyramid stands not just as a monument to the past, but as a symbol of the timeless human desire to connect with something greater, to find comfort in the unknown, and to dream beyond the boundaries of the waking world. So as you settle beneath your own blanket tonight, feel the calm that comes from knowing you are part of this endless story. Let the ancient rhythms lull you, the mysteries inspire you, and the soft silence cradle you into restful, renewing sleep. Good night, and may your dreams be as rich and enduring as the stones of the Great Pyramid itself.